All right. Welcome. We have our guest lecturer today, Sabrina Wottreng. And we're going to be talking about DIY PR. So that means do-it-yourself public relations, if you didn't understand the acronym. Sabrina is one of the leading experts in PR, is an award-winning publicist. What organization is it?
Well, Publicity Club of Chicago, 30 Under 30,
Yeah.
and Globe Street, which is a huge real estate publication, influencers and marketing.
Yes, so she's a big deal, essentially. So she has graciously decided to accept my invitation to be our guest lecturer this morning on public relations, and I will let her take it away. So
Perfect.
I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. So we'll still be talking, so you'll have to just worry about, make sure you're talking loud enough for the computer, and that's it. Let me go ahead and share this over here.
Cool.
And then to move the slide, you'll just have to click over here in this side.
Which one?
You'll just have to click, or you can use your arrows. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So good morning. My name is Sabrina Wottreng. I'm a publicist. I own my own public relations firm. And I got started doing this DIY PR thing because a lot of small businesses were reaching out to me and needing PR help, but just didn't have enough budget for it to be worth like my time to help them out. So I was like, well, I can create like a course where I can teach them some basics and they can do some PR on their own without having to spend thousands of dollars a month hiring a public relations firm. So, here we go. So this is our order of events today. We're going to be highlighting a lot of just PR principles and topics that you could then go and use and potentially like get some press or get some attention for any project that you're up to. So why should you listen to me? I've worked on a lot of big brands. I've worked at some big agencies. I've also worked on a handful of Chicago-based companies. Right now my niche is in commercial real estate and law, but I have worked on fashion and hospitality and even Aldi grocery, really sexy account I worked on when I was just out of college. So I've had a ton of experience in different niches, and there's a lot of things about PR that remain the same no matter what vertical, or whether it's B2C or B2B. There's a lot of fundamental principles that are always the same. So public relations. A lot of people have a variety of definitions for this. So I want to tell you what my definition of PR is so that we're on the same page. So PR is creating and managing a brand's reputation by increasing awareness, name recognition, and thought leadership through media placements, influencer integrations, partnerships, and events. PR.
Yeah. Okay, so let's pause here. Let's go over some of those definitions that you have. So a brand's reputation. So what is the difference between public relations and branding?
Yeah, so branding is like physical, like a logo, a font, a color scheme, you know, words that the brand lives by, like core values, as where reputation on a PR front is like when people say that name, like what comes to mind? Like what comes to mind when you think about Aldi grocery, or what comes to mind about any brand? And PR is all about like crafting that what comes to mind through different tactics.
And then media placements. Mm-hmm. So what exactly do you mean by media placements?
Yeah, so in PR, there's a lot of like getting press is like a big thing. I do a lot of media relations. Like one of my clients last year was in news outlets 159 times, which we were really excited about. So with media placements, it's about creating press releases. It's about doing pitches. Yeah. It's about doing different activities where you're interacting with the media so that they will include you in stories and profile you and do various things in their outlets.
Cool. Got it. Questions?
So, the thing about PR is you have to answer the question, why should anyone care, before doing anything. So a lot of times people will come to me and they'll be like, oh, we just launched a new website. Like, we want some PR about this. And it's like, well, why should anyone care about your new website? Does your website have maybe, if you are a residential real estate agent, does it have maybe a calculator to say if someone can afford to buy a home? Like, is there like something sticky or something like actually like notable that would make people care. Because if you're just out there saying like, oh, we launched a new website, oh, we hired this person, it's like, well, that's fine, but people aren't really going to care because we're not really telling them why they should. So in any PR element that you do, from posting on Instagram to reaching out to media, if you're not answering the question, why should anyone care, in the caption or in the copy, it's not worth putting the time, energy, and effort into it. So we're going to dive into like some specific tactics, like actual things that like a publicist like myself would do for a client. So one I call traditional pitching. So what I mean by that is reaching out to news outlets, whether that's newspapers or TVs or bloggers, and trying to get them to create a story about your brand or your client. So the key to this is angles. A lot of people say like PR people like spin, or there's like a lot of like funny words out there, which if you ever tell a reporter to spin anything, they will be very upset with you. So just kill the word spin from anything. So pitch angles, what makes it unique? One of my favorite examples of this is a brewery got a ton of press about offering paternity leave. So that means like if you get a new dog, they will let you take 2 weeks off of work to like, play with your new dog, get your dog situated like in your home. And why would they create that employee benefit? Maybe it's because they actually love dogs and they want people to be happy with their dogs, but also they got an insane amount of press for this. So the cynic in me is like, maybe it was like a marketing idea, but like this like little small brewery got tons of national press. They got press in like Entrepreneur magazine. They were on major news like like Today Show and Good Morning America. And like it's truly because they took something that was unique. Like people don't really offer like paternity leave, and so that's fun, and people love animals, and it was a great hook. Now they weren't like, oh, we offer paternity leave, and let me tell you about our brewery and more about like what we just released. Like they didn't clutter the message. They were just like, yeah, we're a brewery and we offer paternity leave, and therefore that brewery got mentioned in tons and tons and tons of stories. So sometimes I think people like try to put too much into a pitch, like we offer paternity leave and here are 10 new beers that we just released. It's like, that's cluttered and that's too much. Like you can save that for another time, because with reaching out to media, you really want to be consistent. You want to be frequent, not like over consistent, not like touching, like reaching out to them every single day, but like, on a regular basis, you want to be reaching out to them and telling them, things you have going on in a variety of verticals. So another thing about unique is first to be doing something. This is a tough one because you really have to do your research before you say that you're the first to do anything. I've seen a lot of people kind of trip up on this one because they're like, my startup is the first startup to do blah, blah, blah. And it's like, did you research it? Because a tech reporter that gets reached out to by thousands of people every single day has the most knowledge of like all the startups in the ecosystem. So like make sure that you're actually true. Otherwise, they're just going to call you out on it, and then they're going to have a negative connotation with you because you lied. Something else that's interesting that I want to touch on is about, does your brand give back? So there's plenty of brands out there that are like, oh, if you buy this pair of shoes, we give 10% to X charity. And that's cool and that's great. But it's such a popular business model today that like it doesn't get the traction that it used to in the press. Like when I was in college, there was this Chicago-based company called Bucket Feet, and like they had like local artists create different designs for their shoes. And so there was an online platform, and they gave each artist $1 per pair of shoes that were sold. And that was really cool. And at the time, that was like totally unheard of. But now there's just so many businesses like doing like models like that it's less newsworthy. So if your brand is giving back, or you're doing something that has a give back thing, see if that's the most newsworthy thing you could talk about, or maybe that's just like a subsection of a different like conversation. What's new? This is where a lot of people like really trip up. I'm gonna give like an example of a restaurant. So I've had plenty of restaurants reach out to me and they're like, hey, we have this new menu. Can we like get on eater.com and like have them talk about our new menu? And I'm like, cool, when's the menu like launching? And like, oh, it launched last week. And I'm like, it's dead. Like, you missed the opportunity. Like, new means it hasn't happened yet. Like, new means you're telling the reporter something new is happening in like 2 weeks from now or like a week from now. New is we know this secret that no one else knows. So we're telling you that it's new so that you can like, quote unquote, break the news story. Now, some people might laugh and say, how is a new menu newsworthy? But in today's like media environment, there are outlets that cover everything from restaurants to sneakers to every single thing. So we are in a really cool place right now where there's so many outlets that there's plenty of places to share our stories for either our own brand or our clients. Oh, totally. Yeah. Upcoming events. I'm going to be honest with you. If you think you're going to get press about an event that you're doing, it's really hard unless there's like a celebrity confirmed to attend or a super notable charity partner or something like very like niche and newsworthy. Like plenty of people have reached out to me and they're like, I'm planning this really cool event. It's a fundraiser, or it's, it's just like I'm launching like my new fashion line or whatever. And there's just we live in the city of Chicago. Like, there's so many things going on a given night that the competition to actually like get a news crew to show up is very, very hard. And then utilizing national days / months. I'm sure you guys have seen this on social media. This is like a huge social media push right now, but like it's National Donut Day. So like Dunkin' Donuts is doing this whole promotion about like Donut Day, or like it's National Best Friend Day. Tag your best friend for a chance to win this. I think these national days and themes are best utilized on social media just because it's more fun, it's more conversational. It is, however, a very easy way to get press if you're like, if it's like a boring thing. Meaning National Donut Day, every single company that sells donuts is going to be pushing something about donuts. But if it's like international, or if it's, what's this one? Like International Women's Law Day or something, like that's niche. And I bet many people are not going to create anything about it. So like I have a law firm as a client, like we're going to talk about all of the women that work at the law firm and highlight that day. And like many people aren't going to think about that. But in terms of finding these national days and themes, you can just Google it. There's like all these calendars out there that tell you like what every day is and every sort of like thing like that.
Who determines those calendars?
I don't know. I don't know who makes these days, but these days are made. So I talked before a little bit about like timeliness. So this is just like sort of a quick reference timeline. So TV, every morning there's somebody being interviewed by all the different morning news shows. They might be talking about how they're in Chicago because they have a show that evening, or they might be talking about how they just opened a new coffee shop in Pilsen, or like there's all these morning segments. The thing about morning segments is that they book at least 4 weeks in advance. So if you're like, oh, I'm doing this really cool thing and I want TV to show up, or I want to potentially like talk on TV, you have to be thinking at least 4 weeks in advance, because like these segment producers, like, I mean, they fill things and they also have backups. So an example that I'll give is a gym opened next door to me, like where I live in the city. And we became friendly with the owner, and he was like, yeah, we like book this segment. And I was like, I'm like, oh, that's so amazing. Like, but I was like, but just so you know, like you're a fluffy segment, so you might get bumped. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, you're not like hard news. Like they can talk about your gym opening within like a 1 week span. And like, if something like more pressing happens, if something like more serious happens, like whether good or bad in the city, like, and it's more timely, they will like push you to another day. And sure enough, they ended up bumping him twice because, nice news, unfortunately, does get bumped over like more like news, hard news. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's most of the time, no. However, there are a few, so just take like the morning shows. Never. You never have to pay to be on those. there are like some midday shows that actually people like hire their own video crew. They are their own anchors. Like they basically bought that time slot in, say, WGN or, whatever. There's usually like 2 or 3 like time blocks that have been purchased by people, and then those you do have to pay to be on. But at the end of the day, you can, if you're pitching them, you might as well just pitch to other people and get on for free. There are plenty of like pay for play things, which like we'll talk about later. But yeah, TV, because it's like the news, they try to be neutral on things. So when trying to secure a live event, like we've talked about, there's a difference between reaching out to like a producer versus like a news desk. So one distinction I want to make is if you want to be like a segment, meaning they do like a 3 to 5 minute interview about like you or whatever, that is you're gonna reach out to a producer to like make that happen. But if you're having a live event or you have something very like timely and newsworthy, then you would reach out to the news desk for that, because the news desk is more about like creating the content that the anchors like say, as where the anchors that like interview people are told by the producer like who they're going to be speaking with. And just so you know, the anchors are like flying by the seat of their pants. Like they don't do research about you ahead of time. Like they're literally handed notes like 5 minutes before they start talking to you, and they're like, oh, that's interesting. That's kind of cool. And like, let's talk about that when we go live. And then it's like they're just like flying by the seat of their pants. With newspapers, newspapers in most places are pretty dead. Let's be honest. But if you want something to like physically be in print in a newspaper, you have to reach out to them like 1 to 2 weeks in advance. I was doing this project for the Air National Guard, and they do like these tour bus tours where like they go from like county fair to county fair, and they have this like interactive booth, and they try to get people to sign up. So that was the only time in my entire PR career where we had like a newspaper heavy pitching focus, because it was like rural markets that don't have like local TV news. It's they're just super rural, so they have like their local like paper, and that's how they get their news. So depending upon the market area that you're trying to reach out to, newspapers may be more important. But in the city of Chicago, like you're going to reach out, sure, you might reach out to Chicago Tribune, but you're probably reaching out to their like online writers because it's a faster turnaround. So with newspapers, make sure that you pitch out to them at least a week or two in advance. But also, it's best to pitch on like a Monday or Tuesday, because as their job, they have to like go through story ideas, and then say to their editor, here's what I would like to write about this week. And then their editor goes, let's not talk about that, or oh, I really like that. And then on Wednesday, they're like writing, and then usually they're going to print like Thursday, just sort of like a timeline. Online versions. Online outlets are your best friend. One, it's all about analytics. If you get a press placement in a newspaper, how do you know how that drove business? You don't. If you get a TV segment, how do you really know how much that impacted your business? You don't. And the clients ask me all the time, like, well, what's the value of this TV placement? And I'm like, well, I can like throw around some made up numbers, but like at the end of the day, there's not like the trackability. As where if you get mentioned in an online article and they link to your website, you can say, this article drove this much traffic to our website and potentially this many sales. So that's why a lot of people put like more of their resources and time and energy into online, like reaching out to online outlets, because you have much more trackability. So with online versions, you honestly can pitch them like anytime, anywhere, because their deadlines are less strict. And also just being an online news reporter or even like online blogger, you're required to write like 3 to 5 stories a day as part of your job. So if someone's handing you something that you can basically copy and paste and post, like done. So yeah, online writers, like just so you know, like as a career path, there's a ton of burnout. But if you can find those reporters and build those relationships, it's cool because they job hop so often. So like if they started out at the Chicago Tribune, but now they're at like Block Club Chicago, or now they're, reporters hop around a ton. Like it's really rare for an online reporter to stay at the same outlet for more than like 2 years. So like as you're building your career and like they're building their career, like they could potentially end up at like the Wall Street Journal someday. Like a girl I went to college with is now like a segment producer at Good Morning America, which is awesome because it's like, oh, hey, you used to like be like an entry-level person here at a news station in Chicago, but like as we've grown in our careers, like you've gone there, and like that's a really cool thing. I can just like Facebook message you. Not that I have that many like clients that are like worthy of Good Morning America, but like the day that it comes, like I have a great contact. So press releases. Most of my clients are older because I do a lot of commercial real estate and law, like PRing. So they're always like, let's make a press release about this. And like a press release is a formal like document. It's like very templated. You talk about, the news in a very formal way versus just like a quick, like a little pitch. So the thing about press releases is that back in the day, like 30 years ago, press releases were like all reporters knew. They knew that they would either get faxed a press release, which is awesome that people use fax, or they would get the press release sent to them through what's called like the newswire. And so they would just flip through all the press releases and go, oh, this is what I want to talk about today, or this is what I want to talk about today. However,
like physically, right?
Yeah, physically. However, like those days are very dead. Press releases absolutely still have a place as part of like an overall media strategy. Like I write probably 3 or 4 press releases a week, but they don't have like the weight that they used to. But a press release is a great way to like put your story into like a 1-page document. So with a press release, you can pay to distribute it on a wire. Now, back to what I just said about how reporters don't really look at wires anymore. The value is SEO. So if you're like working with like a new company, a startup, a new fashion label, a new brand, and they're like, we just need people to be able to like find us. Like if they Google like organic leather handbags, or like very specific things. Like if the brand has like specific keywords, by putting that press release on the wire and making sure that press release has those keywords in it, it will help the brand rank on that search, and it will also link build because the press release will link to like the company site, and it gets distributed on like thousands of websites. So from a SEO link building standpoint, I'm sure that's like too technical for 101.
No, we did an SEO.
Yeah.
I had them write an SEO blog post. So I understand where to use keywords, right? In the title, in the meta description, in the headers, in the body.
Yeah.
And they also did marketing strategies.
Cool.
So they've got a little bit about keywords.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and SEO is like, I've been using this analogy with one of my clients recently. It's like making a soup. There's a ton of ingredients. You can't just like have one ingredient and be like, oh, I've done my SEO. It's like everything she just said. Then you can use PR to help with the link building and some of the other like elements of SEO. So I would say only put the time and energy into a press release if it's a huge announcement, like truly huge, and that has enough weight that it could either be worth the cost of putting it on a wire and living on the internet forever, and just having enough meat to it that it's not just something that's going to be completely useless 6 months from now, and you're going to be like, why did we put that out there? We don't want people like, we changed as a company, or we've pivoted, and why do we have this out there? Like that's not who we are anymore. So here's just an example like template. I'll totally share this with you guys after this, so don't like worry about this. But basically, as I was saying, like you want to have a really keyword headline, because at the end of the day, the reporter is just going to look at that headline, and if they're going to make a decision of yes or no based on that headline. So make sure it's saying like the most important elements up front. Like don't bury the lead. Like whatever the most important thing is, put that right up front. And then, you want to go into talking about the who, what, when, where, why, and how in that first paragraph. And then you want to include additional information just to paint a deeper picture about the company, the product, the service, what have you. And then you always want to have quotes from the most important people. So in today's like journalist environment, they don't have the time to truly like call about every single story. So they're going to trust this as like gold. Like they're going to trust that this is completely factual, completely correct, and they're going to actually like take information out of this and write a story without ever contacting you. It is what it is. It's the state of the media today. So by providing them those quotes, you're helping them do their job faster. And basically the way I think about PR is I want to be able to spoon feed someone a story so well that they literally can just copy paste post. Like you want to provide them images, you want to provide them your logo, you want to provide them literally every single element that they will need to do their job. And then of course, really good reporters will still call, but I've had typos run in articles before because I had a typo in like a press release or a pitch, and they literally copied and pasted it, and then my typo was in an article. But it's not on me. I mean, I once had a client like, why does this typo keep appearing in like that article and that article? And I'm like, well, they're the reporter. So, you know, one just other thing I really want to flag with this is a lot of people start to think about this as like a sales document. Like I've drafted press releases for clients before, and they've come back to me and they like totally have reworded it to make it sound like very salesy. But at the end of the day, this document is not meant to be salesy. This is the like, here are the facts and only the facts. Like that's what this document is. So really try to avoid like, you know, like adjectives and salesy verbiage. It's not, the journalists are not going to like that. And most importantly too, we have to think about that question of why should anyone care before it? Because I mean, press releases, it's going to take a ton of time. Someone has to write it, then everyone involved has to look at it and approve it, and then it has to get pitched to the media, and then you might have to answer a few media questions. Like that's a lot of time. So if whatever you're writing about isn't worth all of that time, like maybe don't do it. Maybe make it into a smaller pitch or just a social media post. Okay, this right here, I would say, is the best thing a small business can do. I call it opportunistic monitoring. And what that means is you think about your competitors, right, in the competitive landscape. Let's say, pick like a category, like shoes or fashion or food or, I don't know, just throw out a random category. Shoes, okay. Say that you're Vans, and say that you are a new company and you're competing with Vans. So what you do is you look at what journalists cover Vans. So you Google like Van shoes, Van shoe releases, like new news at Vans, and you start looking at all the news coverage. And you look at all the different writers that are covering them. And then you reach out to them and you say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I have this new company, or I represent this new company, and we're kind of like Vans, but we're also not at all. And like, here's how we're very different. And that reporter's already going to be a little interested, because if they're interested about Vans, of course they'd be interested about like your new shoe because it's similar. So opportunistic monitoring is basically that. It's looking at the landscape, who's covering our competitors, and reaching out to them and introducing yourself to them and how you're different from your competitors. So there's this thing called source services. One's called Harrow, Help a Reporter Out. It's totally free. You really sign up and you get 3 emails a day, and it's just prompts. It's reporters submitting like, I need a source about this, or I need to speak to an expert about this. As an example, my fiance is in the internet business, and anytime I see a prompt about 5G, I send it to him, because in his mind, 5G is all pretend, and he can factually talk about that. And so anytime I see a 5G thing, I just forward it to him because he's an expert in that space. And with these reporter services, it's also great because like, you're not trying to convince a reporter about a topic. They're already like, I need to write a story about this topic. And if you fit that topic, you're like, hey, here's how I can help you with this topic. So yeah, Harrow's free. There's another one called ProfNet. only like a publicist would subscribe to it, like myself, because it's like $1,000 a year. But it's another service where reporters say like, I'm working on a story about X, Y, and Z. There's a new one called Quoted. That's also free. There's a lot of these like popping up now because, it's just like we live in a very connected world now. Like it's sort of like a social media platform for journalists and people looking to be in the news.
Quoted is?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, QWOTED.
Okay.
I know. Every time I think about Quoted, it's the spelling just gets me. And so when I like type it into like my inbox, I always have to do it like 4 times because I'm like, how do they spell this stupid company name? So yes, opportunistic monitoring, absolutely, where the energy should be put in a small business environment, just because of the time, energy, and resources elements of everything. Influencers. I don't work with influencers. Let me tell you why. And let me tell you why your small business should not work with influencers. Okay. So, okay. I used to work at this like very hip PR firm, and we used to pay influencers tons of money to like, oh, like I go to this coffee and like I got this dress from this and like all of that stuff. And yes, influencers can totally drive business and totally like elevate a company. However, influencers like are at a place right now where they are so expensive that like if you took that money that you would spend paying them to make one post on a Google AdWords campaign or something like some other marketing thing that has a lot more trackability, you'd probably be in a better position. But anyways, influencers, who are they? I'm sure you're on Instagram, right? Both of you? Ish. You see hashtag sponsored, you see paid promotion by, everyone basically is an influencer today. There's a fun term called micro-influencer, which I think marketing agencies hop on because they're like, see, it's justifiable to pay these people. Market micro-influencers, it's a thing. And it's like, well, they only have 2,000 followers. Like, are they really that influential? Are their followers actually? Well, you can go both ways. You can. And Katie's like, yes, they are. Well, it just depends. And
depends on the engagement.
Exactly. The thing about influencers is you really have to research them because you can buy likes, you can buy comments, you can buy followers, you can be super shady on all of these platforms. So if you are going to be working with an influencer, like make sure they're actually influential to the people that you want to reach out to. And you can do that just truly by like following them and just really like monitoring everything that they're doing. Another thing is if every single post they're doing is sponsored, that's not good either. You want to look for like that good balance of like authentic content to paid content. But here we go. How much will it cost? These are some rough numbers of how much it will cost. But the thing is, like, these influencers get to dictate their prices. So some people might be under that. Some people might be over that. Like, it's a free market. There's all these like companies out there that exist. They're like, oh, if you pay us like $100,000, we'll guarantee like 20 Instagram posts and 50 Facebook posts and whatever. But it's like, you're also relinquishing control over like who these influencers are. So I would say in terms of everything influencer, be super cautious because you also don't want to align yourself with someone who then a week later does something very terrible on social media. And then like all of a sudden your brand's like associated with that person. So I would treat influencers basically as like an endorser. Like people used to pay to have, like celebrity endorsements. Like think of these influencers as a celebrity endorsement because they're out there living their life. And if you are associating with them, like for good or for bad. So be very careful with influencers. I'm done with them. Anytime a client brings up influencers, I'm like, that's great. Let me refer you to someone that can do that for you. Because I hate negotiating with them. And they're always like, I have such great traction. People like, they click through when they buy things. I'm like, great, send me those analytics. And then they don't because most of the time it's not real. Okay, this ties in gifting and paid promotion. So when I did some fashion PR, gifting was a huge thing. basically it's just sending like, there's this men's shirt company that I used to do PR for. They were made in America, sustainable, all of that cool stuff. Their shirts retailed at $225. It was the expectation from all of these influencers that we would give them a free shirt, which that's for a small business, that's a huge cost if we have to be gifting $225 to every single person. And two, they would say, well, gifting us this shirt doesn't guarantee that I'm going to talk about it. Really hard as a small business. Like, if we're going to spend $5,000 on giving people shirts and we're not going to be able to guarantee any placements, that's a tough place to be in. But that's sort of the marketplace, like especially in fashion, because this guy Luxury or LaRoche, do you know who that is? He's a celebrity stylist. He posts every Tuesday all of the presents he gets from brands, and it's like hundreds of presents. And it's just like, that's fashion. And like, if you want to play in that space, like you have to gift people who have plenty of money free things. So with gifting, always create like specific terms for the endorsement. So I would say try to negotiate for, if I'm going to send you this, can you at least sign in writing like a little contract that like you'll at least give us a shout out, even if like you're not going to wear the shirt in a post or like whatever. Like, can you just like create some sort of like specific action item that they can do and like make them sign it? Because otherwise it's just a free for all. In terms of like social media, like you have to like agree. Yep, like with influencers, you have to be very, very specific. So if you're like, either I'm paying you to post about this or I'm gifting this to you in exchange for a post, make sure you get it in writing the day that they're going to post, the time that they're going to post, if they're going to leave that post up forever or if they're going to delete it after 24 hours, because that's the thing. A lot of times people that are like doing a ton of sponsored content, they'll post at like, say, 8 p.m., which isn't like necessarily the best time to post. And then they'll delete it the next day at like 8 a.m. And they're like, well, I posted. And it's like, so think like a lawyer in terms of like reaching out to people in terms of the gifting and the paid promotion and the paid side of things. And, 5 years ago, everything that was paid used to fall under advertising and like, oh, my advertising person's going to take care of this. But we live in such like a mixed marketing world now that like most of the time these social media or even celebrity like endorsement things are being handled by the PR team because there's such an emphasis on the messaging and, that reputation element that it more falls on the PR side versus the ad side. But yes, like I said, research your influencer, the most important thing. Like anyone that still sponsors Logan Paul, like I don't get it. Yeah.
They did kind of like sign them and like really.
Right. I mean, the thing is, he does something stupid like I feel like 4 times a year. So like at this point, why do like I just wish brands would give up on him. Like it's like he's a multimillionaire. Just like stop. Okay, guest contributing. In the B2B space, business to business, where I spend most of my day, guest contributing is where it's at. So what that means is, you read an article in any website, and it says by so-and-so. Well, a lot of time, the person that wrote that article is an industry expert. Like I've written articles that have been on like PR websites because I'm like a PR industry expert. And in certain spaces like real estate, I have clients that write articles on Forbes.com. And like, how do they get to do that? Because they're an expert. And like we've shown Forbes, like this person's a really big deal. And Forbes is like, they are a really big deal. And also Forbes is like, oh, you're going to give me a free article? Awesome. Because otherwise Forbes would have to pay a reporter to write. But they have all these people who are like, please let me write a free article for you. That they're like, great, we will have all of the free articles, pay less money. Oh, it's a win for us. It's a win for you. So becoming a contributor is a great opportunity, especially if a company's like, we're going to spend a lot of energy creating blog posts. Why not try to make that blog post a contributed article first? And then if the news outlet is like, that's not really something we would want to publish, cool, you still have a blog post you can publish. But the reverse is not true. So if you write an article and you put it on your blog, you can't then shop it around to other outlets because it's already out there. It's not new content. So that's like a big distinction with guest contributing is whatever you're giving an outlet has to be never published before. So as an example, these are some like high traffic sites that like take guest contributors. Bustle.com, really cool site. It's like a women's site. They talk about money. They talk about health and wellness. They talk about relationships. It's just like a women's lifestyle website. I have a client, a former client, who used to she is a personal trainer, and she would write different articles on Bustle.com about like personal training. And then she was like, you know what, I kind of like writing. And so then she used her like portfolio of articles from Bustle and then reached out to other outlets and was like, hey, like, here's some articles I wrote for here. Can I write some articles for you? Well, then all of a sudden she looks to the outside world as the ultra expert because, oh, hi, her name is Isadora. Hi, my name is Isadora. I write for Bustle. I write for this. And she's like, I have articles published on all these sites. She got a book deal. Why did she get a book deal? Because these people are like, well, she has to be legit. Like she writes for all these outlets. Yeah, she got a book deal. Last year.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Good.
She messaged me. She was like, I couldn't have done this without you. And I'm like, thank you so much. I get to use this when I pitch clients now. So yeah, becoming a contributor, super important. Now here is where everyone messes up. They spend so much time trying to get an article, like trying to get a press placement, trying to get an influencer post. But then once they get it, they don't do anything with it. And like your press placement is like validation from a third party talking about like how great you are, that you have something new going on. So make sure you share that article to every one of your channels. Make an email blast about it. Make a blog post about it. Post about it on social media. Like call your mom and tell her to read the article. Like make sure you tell people that you actually like got this third party validation. You would truly be surprised how many people get an article and then just like don't think to do anything with it. And it's like, why do we spend all this energy to get you this article if you're not gonna like go use this to market yourself? Go tell people, oh, well, according to this website, I'm one of the 10X to watch this year. Like go use that to market yourself. And also always send a thank you email to the reporter or the producer or the anchor or whoever. Like you don't understand how many people don't do that. So, which is sickening, but make sure you say thank you for getting that, like for them to take the time out of their day to talk about you and how awesome like your brand is. It's just a simple thank you. Just like, thank you so much for this. Like you can also be a little salesy and be like, thank you so much for this. You know, maybe next time we could talk about blah, 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 because that's just a very warm way to feel out like if there's an opportunity for more press or more attention. Also, I see this a lot on people's websites. You'll see like, oh, like we've been featured in, and they have like the little logos, right? Like, but most people don't link to those. So me, as a cynical publicist, I'm like, yeah, right. You were actually in the Wall Street Journal. Like, if you were truly in the Wall Street Journal, why isn't this clickable? Why can't I click on this? So if you are featured in press, you want to talk about it on your website, like make sure you put the logo up and then like link to it. It's just a lot more like validity to that too. And then yes, email blast. Like I feel like all my clients are like, I need content for my email blast, and it's like, you don't realize you were just in all of this press. Like just use this press as your content. So overall, when you get press, make sure you tell people that you got it. And that's it. Holla. I mean, if you have any questions, concerns, we can talk specifics if you guys have like anything personal that you're working on.
Where can they follow you online?
Oh yeah, my Instagram, my business Instagram is at DIYPR. Let me tell you about, I have so many insane stories. Okay. One of the most stressful PR projects I ever worked on was this physical building in Chicago called River City. It's in the South Loop. It's shaped like an S. So that building used to be a condo building. And then a real estate investment firm came to the condo building and they said, hello, 498 condo unit owners. We would like to buy your building. Here's how much we would like to pay. And it's an investment trend in real estate called condo deconversion. It's actually like kind of popular. And yeah, it does. It happens all the time. And so with 498 condo owners, there's a lot of opinions. And unfortunately for this building, they didn't do any PR for like 3 years. This was like a 3-year negotiation. I got hired in once the deal was like done, and to help change the narrative of the building. What does that mean? So changing the narrative of the building. One, if you Googled at that time, River City, it was lawsuit, 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 lawsuit. So if they're going to turn this building into like fancy apartments, obviously they don't want renters to see lawsuit, 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 lawsuit. Were any of these lawsuits legit? No, they all got thrown out. Well, they never actually had a single day in court, but the article was still there. So that negativity was still out there. Now, an average renter is not going to take the time to dive into were all of these lawsuits true. Like, they're going to be like, ooh, this building, like, this seems like negative. So what we did was we did a series of like press releases and announcements to help change basically what appears when you search the building. But while doing that, there was a lot of negativity because a lot of the building is made by a very famous architect. The architecture community, Wottreng Goldberg. Yeah, the architecture community was like, don't you dare touch this building. Like, don't you dare. This is now here's the thing. It's not a historical landmark building. It doesn't have any preservation designations like some buildings do. So like the new owners of the building could do whatever they wanted. But the architecture community was like, don't you dare. And then some of the people that were very upset about the deal, like angry former condo owners, they were still calling press and like talking smack and like sharing construction photos. And I'm not kidding what I'm about to say. I woke up one morning and there was a headline that was like, River City defiles, or River City owners defile building. And I'm like, and it was because this building is concrete. They literally painted the interior concrete white. That was the controversy. But they had all these architecture people being like, it is a brutalist building, and you can't do that to a brutalist building. And then they had the former the architect's, like Wottreng Goldberg's son, being like, I was never consulted on any changes. And it's like, why would you? Like, so I was just getting hit with like all these things, and like we just had to like. And the thing is too, like this building isn't owned by like a single person. It's a multi-$100-million building. Like there are a lot of people involved in who owns this building. So then I had to like go relay to all of these parties like, hi, there's a negative article. And they're like, what did we hire you for? And it's like, okay. We like, it's like, hello, very rich men from all over the world. Hi, we need a message about this. And like, it's really just like, you can't prevent negativity sometimes. Like people are going to say things, but like you can also do things to like show that it's a little like crazy. So like as an example, after that like super negative article came out, we had one of the best real estate reporters in Chicago physically tour the building. And he was like, oh yeah, like this white paint, like this makes so much more sense. Like there's more natural light, there's this and that. I'm like, yes, please put that in your story. Thanks. So that was a super stressful project. I mean, oh God, I have so many stories. The things that like keep me up at night are really like when a reporter like doesn't take the time to like really dig in. And so it's like sometimes a story will come out where like a competitor is highlighted and it's like, you know that like we exist, and like you could have just like called us or like said, hey, like I'm doing an article about this, like you could probably weigh in as like a counter opinion on this. But like like really good journalism is just like not really like a thing anymore. So like a lot of times like my clients, they love to forward me articles when when their competitors are in it, and they're like, why are they in this article? I'm like, well, we can't be in every single article. Like our competitors, like if we were in every single article, like that would be weird. Like it would look like we're paying. Like our competitors have to be able to be in articles too. But then but it's like, man, if that reporter had just taken the extra time to like call us, we could have had this article could have been so much better because there have been more opinions, more viewpoints. So that's frustrating. I would say like a really like fun PR thing that I did is when I was working for that men's shirt company, we noticed that this really famous like menswear influencer was in Chicago, and we like dropped off a shirt for him like at the hotel. So we like wrapped up the shirt and like went to the concierge. We're like, hey, this is for like so and so. Super creepy, right? But he ended up like DMing us and be like, that was so cool. Like, oh, you're a Chicago company. And started this whole conversation, which then ended up translating into like an unpaid promotion, which for this guy, I mean, that probably would have been like a $30,000 post if we had to pay for it. So like that was super cool. Yeah. Being creepy. Like honestly, all of my clients, like they're like, I can't find someone's contact information. Hey Sabrina, is there any way you could find this? Like PR people were very creepy. Like you want to find anything about anyone on the internet? I know how to.
So how do you work with designers?
Oh yeah, so like Katie and I have worked a lot together. Fun fact. So you know, I do PR. She at the time was like really focused on like branding and websites. So really, if a company is like making a logo and making a website, maybe they want PR, because if they're obviously new and they probably need to tell people about what they're doing. So like we sort of became like really natural like business collaborators, because sometimes people would come to me and they'd be like, I want you to do my PR, and I'd be like, okay, but first you need a new website. Like I don't want to draw like I can't reach out to media and take them to this website. Like no way. Also, you don't want to drive